Stay relevant. We're going to talk about that Young Bucks cease and desist. I'm hoping Nick and Matt discovered recently that if I tweet something out about wrestling trademarks, 800 people will try and retweet them to get them to respond to such things, which amused me greatly this week, where I was kind of like, I think they know what's going on. You guys really don't need to keep telling them the same tweet over and over again, but I'm sure that's their own problem. Talk us through the timeline of what has happened with this Young Bucks cease and desist, Too Sweet, Suck It, Bullet Club, all that stuff.
Yeah. So the Bullet Club did a video as part of their Being the Elite series, where the Bullet Club went to Raw in Ontario, California on Monday, which is September 25th. And they sort of start the video off talking about, Cody wants to get his Rhodes name back, and the Bucks want to get the Suck It gesture back. I don't think they were actually referring to the Click gesture, but I could be wrong. Marty Scurll wanted to get his umbrella gimmick back, which is supposedly stolen by Jack Gallagher. They're being, very ironic and,
facetious, if you will.
Facetious. So in the middle of the video, there's also a ad read from the High Spots Wrestling Network for what it's worth.
What is you?
It didn't surprise me, but it was it's interesting that they're getting whatever monetization they can get from YouTube, if any. But it's interesting that they're getting, an ad read from High Spots. So
don't they do like the shoot interviews after PWG sometimes with like Meltzer and people?
Yes.
Okay. So doesn't that appear on High Spots?
Yep.
Okay. So that might be another connection there. Is it's kind of money in their pocket, right? If people go to High Spots and start using that promotion, because they do have some content on there.
Mm-hmm. I just thought that was evidence of. Look at how these guys are marketing themselves and getting themselves to make money, not just by wrestling, not just by selling merchandise, but look, they've got ad revenue because they've got a sponsor on one of their videos, which they could have easily just not created this Being the Elite series and not gotten that ad revenue. But anyway.
Well, speaking of ad revenue, wasn't it Coffee Day yesterday, International Coffee Day?
It was International Coffee Day, and Stephanie McMahon got a personal note from Starbucks while I was sitting there at my 9-to-5 day job sucking on Folgers.
You're saying that Larry Starbucks himself sent Stephanie McMahon Helmsy a note?
It could have been. I don't remember who signed it.
Wow, that's pretty exciting. Big Larry getting into the action. Yes, we are looking for sponsors on Wrestlenomics Radio, and when we're going through various choices for sponsors, I think I called out that I would love to be sponsored by a K-Cup company of some sort, because we do usually drink coffee when we're recording these shows on Saturday mornings. I'm drinking some plantation mint tea this morning just to soothe my ailing voice, but normally it would be coffee.
I've got the Wegmans coffee today.
I would kill to be sponsored by Wegmans. That would make me the happiest man on earth. If Danny Wegmans, trustee of my alma mater, was in fact listening here, let me know. Get in touch.
Is Danny Wegman still alive?
No,
I don't know.
I think Danny's gone, but one of his sons is now the on the board of not directors, maybe the board of trustees or whatever for the University of Rochester.
Okay, we'll do our supermarket economics episode maybe next week.
Yes, but on this Bullet Club episode, on this Being the Elite episode.
So an important note that a lot of people, I think, including Dave Meltzer, have pointed out. There's a moment in the video where earlier they're hanging out with fans and whatnot, but then they talk to this one fan who admits to them that he's got free tickets to Raw. That's how he's going to Raw. He didn't pay for a ticket. He's got a free ticket, and the idea is that WWE would be really bothered by that. They don't want their show to be known as something that people are getting free tickets to.
Well, and moreover, a lot of people don't remember the lawsuits of the 90s between WCW and WWF over the DX skit that they're parodying, but this became part of the legal record, where there was a whole issue there where if you read the excerpt testimony of the not testimony, but the excerpt legal filing, it talks about how this was used as kind of a disparaging gesture by WWF on WCW, saying that in the parlance of professional wrestling, giving away free tickets was akin to saying that the product was not popular and was failing and all this other stuff. And so this was actually part of the legal filing, specifically when they were fighting over the rights. And it was kind of the combination of all the different back and forth shots that WCW and WWF were doing to each other on kind of Lanham Act, trademark infringement, character infringement.
So I haven't watched the DX Invasion angle in a while. Is there actually a moment in the DX invasion angle in like 1998, right? Is there actually a moment where they go up to a WCW fan and a WCW fan tells them he got free tickets?
My understanding is that they show footage of a different billboard that basically is like free tickets available or something like that.
Oh, that sounds familiar.
And then that basically were accused of essentially editing in something that was completely untrue. And then I think they did find some people to be like, "Are you paying to go to the show?" And they're like, "No, these were free. They're handing them out," or something like that. I haven't watched it recently either, so I could be wrong on that. But I just want to bring up the fact that this became a legal point in this other argument. So as much as it seems to be a small little jibe and a parody of the original thing, it's also important to point out that that parody ended up costing a lot of legal dollars in man hours spent to fight this lawsuit back and forth.
So the DX invasion angle itself cost WWF money.
It was, yes. I mean, undoubtedly, because it was a legal argument between the two of them. And I think essentially it ended in a stalemate where they were basically told to both pay their own legal bills.
Okay. So on, I believe it is Wednesday, the 27th. Was that a Wednesday? It was. Ryan Satin from Pro Wrestling Sheet put out a report saying that that WWE had sent the Young Bucks an actual cease and desist. Up to this point, it's just been ironic fun and games, but it looks like WWE has sent the Young Bucks an actual cease and desist, telling them to stop using the Too Sweet gesture, at least on their T-shirts, right?
That's what it sounds like. And so if we go to Satin's piece here, I'm just clicking on it now. We know Meltzer wrote about it in the Observer this week. He said they confirmed that they reached out to them and said that they could be sued for $150,000 in damages or more. And they want an agreement saying they won't use WWIP in writing. And then I think Dave wrote a little bit more about it in his Observer that came out on Thursday. But there's no denying that they got the letter. I think everyone agrees that WWE sometimes sends out these strongly worded legal letters. And just for people asking me, oh, where's the filing? Where's this or that? There is no filing. You know, it's just like a letter you'd send on the mail to anyone else. If someone chooses to put it online, then sure, yeah, you can see that. And I think we even might have been able to dig up another example of WWE sending a very similar message to someone. But
yeah, so we were just talking about indie wrestling that I'm involved in. So I've been more or less running the website and the social media for a promotion called Empire State Wrestling for several years. And there's been a couple times where I guess we were using a photo that WWE actually owned, and they sent us, or at least they claimed to own, and they sent us cease and desist notices that seemed very dramatic. And I would imagine the Young Bucks got a very similar email with a few variables changed, the same email that we got, where it and I shared that with you I think last night, where it makes the same threat, if that's the right word, basically saying we're entitled to all profits, and we're going to charge you $150,000 per work and all that.
And I think it's even citing a law in the sense of saying, because we own this IP, according to this law, we can request up to damages. You know, so it's not like they're just choosing $150,000 because they think it's going to bankrupt someone. It's like saying when you illegally copy a DVD or something in the beginning, it has that FBI piracy warning, and it says, you know, you can be charged fines up to $250,000 or whatever.
Yeah. So I think some fans have heard that $150 number and
$150,000.
Excuse me, $150,000 number, and people have thought, well, they're going to go after the Young Bucks, and they decided that they want to get them for that much money. That's just I believe
law.
That's just standard. That's just standard to what they put in those statements that they send out. Probably, I would think they send out multiples of those every week.
Did they end up coming back to you on that Jim Duggan event?
No, and nobody ever followed up. No, and I think we might have changed it, but we didn't send. I don't know that we sent them an email back saying, because they say in the statement, we want you to
confirm
tell us in writing that you're not going to do this anymore. Email is sufficient. And I don't know if we ever got back to them. We may or may not have changed the photo. But you know, nobody ever followed up with us.
Yeah, strongly worded legal letters are exactly that. They're strongly worded legal letters, and on the basis of things, you can use them probably to set a evidence trail of, you know, communication between you and someone else. But I don't believe they have any bearing on actual penalties, because, you know, you're not filing it with a government agency to do that. We've seen actually a lot of these strongly worded legal letters show up as correspondence and exhibits in filings after they've come out. But a lot of them don't. You know, there's obviously a lot of communication that we see I've seen examples, from the CTE case and the royalties lawsuit where, WWE lawyers will trade emails or written letters with people on these subjects. So it's a threat for sure. And it's saying that we might institute legal action, but 99% of the time, it's just a really cheap way of getting people to just change their action and scare them into maybe going into a direction that then you don't have to actually invoke any law, because the process of actually invoking laws is going to be rather cumbersome and long and painful and expensive. So it's much cheaper for having in-house counsel just write a strongly worded letter, probably a template of a strongly worded letter, since I'm imagining the letter that ESW got is very similar to the one the Young Bucks got. And what was probably the most interesting part of that, though, is why was WWE irked this time? Well, it could be, and according to Meltzer, it was because of the free tickets claim that they're really sensitive on this claim.
I think that was his speculation.
That's his speculation, yes.
Yeah.
We don't know that for a fact. So his speculation is that they're really sensitive about attendance numbers, and they're sensitive about the word being out there that they're not doing well in selling tickets.
Yeah. But we did hear Dave say before the cease and desist news came out that they were bothered by the free ticket thing.
So there's that. The second one was WWE actually talked about,
not that they were bothered by the free ticket thing, but that they were upset about the angle in some sense.
That the attention the angle got, for sure.
I think we heard Dave say that WWE was furious, or at least, bothered by it. And I think maybe people like Rover were questioning that or something.
So what IP are they infringing on is, I think, one of the biggest questions everybody was asking about, are you really now saying that every time I do a YouTube video and I do the suck it gesture or do the too sweet gesture, that would be enough for WWE to send a takedown notice or an IP violation notice? And so what a lot of people are suggesting is that there's kind of two different sides here. There's the trademark and there's the copyright side. On the trademark side, they did attempt to trademark the too sweet gesture. And if you go to the actual trademark and you look through it, it's basically saying it's the second finger and the pinky finger straight up. It's the middle two fingers straight out, and then it's the thumb touching the end of those middle two fingers. So I know a lot of people have compared it to like the devil horns. And technically, I think the devil horns, you would tuck those middle two fingers underneath the thumb. So it would be a little bit different. But that was the click gesture.
Didn't somebody some rock star try to trademark the devil horns or something like that?
Yes. So Gene Simmons recently did try to trademark the devil horns. It's really funny if you look at the trademark application. The specimen that he submitted was him and Dave Grohl. For all things, just like randomly, is a picture of him giving the devil horns while standing next to Dave Grohl. And if you look, Gene Simmons actually has a long history of trying to trademark lots of things that the office has either rejected or he never bothered to follow through on. Things like Gene's Groupie Girls, or one was my favorite, it was called just Bikini Car Wash. And it was this like long thing from the trademark attorney being like, is this going to actually include a, quote, bikini car wash? End quote. And that one never really went anywhere either. But Gene Simmons recently got turned down for doing that one and just kind of abandoned it, as far as I can tell. But I know there was a lot of negative press around that. So WWE tried in March of 2015 to trademark this gesture. And essentially what they do when you do this is that the examiners look for marks that are either the exact same. So you can't trademark, Broken Matt if Broken Matt Hardy is already in the system. And then they will look for things that are similar and would have a likelihood of confusion, because that's the entire point of a trademark, is that it's supposed to avoid confusing people in the marketplace by thinking they're getting one product and in fact they're getting a different product. So when they had cited the likelihood of confusion, which was the tweet that I put out, where I said essentially the first one they showed was the Longhorns at University of Texas Austin saying, here's a prior use. And then they showed another one, which was kind of like the too sweet gesture, except for imagine like an eyeball in the middle of the palm of the hand that, some other company had done. And a lot of other people have pointed out that I think NC State might already also have a similar trademark. And that when the trademark attorney, said that here's a likelihood of confusion, I don't know if they have to be absolutely exhaustive in terms of saying here's every trademark that you're infringing on. They just have to show there's at least one. So they showed a couple examples to say here's a couple examples. And in the end, WWE didn't respond essentially to that challenge and they essentially abandoned the trademark. So the trademark filing never was, they tried to trademark it, but they never went through and finished it. So they never received the trademark for it. And it was just funny when I put out that tweet, how many people, brought up the NC State thing, brought up the Longhorns, even Survival Tobita, the pro wrestler from Japan who fights, is a rock and roller who fights space monsters, immediately
your personal favorite wrestler, by the way.
My personal favorite wrestler immediately tweeted me, and he only tweets me twice a year when I say I wish it was my birthday and Survival Turbita would congratulate me and this. And he basically said, I wonder if Dick Murdoch and Stan Hansen are trying to get some royalties off the Click thing for the Longhorns that, he immediately recognized.
Wow.
So that really amused me that even Survival Turbita just showed up out of nowhere and recognized it. What I did notice as well, and I got to credit Abby online on Twitter. I don't know her full name, but she was looking at some copyright stuff, and she pointed out, well, there is a copyright for something called click hand gesture or click hand design. But unfortunately, we can't see what the 2D artwork that they used in that copyright filing is. But it's right before they filed for the Click Rules DVD in 2015 and was released. And all over that package is this artwork where it says, the Click Rules. And it's literally, if you look at the trademark filing and then you look at the picture that's on the Click Rules DVD, it's almost the exact same drawing. It's just been colorized. So they do have a copyright on something called the Click Hand Design 2D artwork. And they have the copyright on the video disc for Click Rules. And so I'm not surprised if actually in the Young Bucks letter, they're being told that they're infringing on the trademark on their T-shirts that they're selling, not on the YouTube video, but rather on the T-shirts. Or if it is on the YouTube video, they're using some kind of thing from the copyright of the video disc. But I'm guessing it's a lot more. It's actually on the T-shirts because they're monetizing it. And specifically, I believe that the strongly worded legal letter from WWE says something about we want to take the profits from what you're making on this. And I assume a lot of those profits are coming from T-shirt profits.
Yeah, and Young Bucks did remove any T-shirts that they had the Too Sweet gesture on them. So I feel that this is probably, they're going to have to not sell T-shirts that have the Too Sweet gesture on them or say Too Sweet on them. But I would be surprised if the Young Bucks actually can't go on Ring of Honor TV or go on a New Japan show and still do the gesture.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it would be next to impossible unless WWE would have put out one of these character trademark infringement cases where they're saying that basically you're infringing on my character and you're making people think that this character is associated with my IP. And that I think would be a lot harder because I don't think they have they obviously have documented characters that use these hand signals, but they would have to then go through the whole fight of trying to prove that here's our prior use of this, here's our example of the footage, and that would be a really long, arduous thing. The other thing I'd say is that the Young Bucks themselves probably didn't remove a thing. Don't the Young Bucks use Pro Wrestling Tees or one of these companies to sell their T-shirts?
They use ProWrestlingTees.com and YoungBucksMerch.com.
Okay, so maybe Young Bucks merch, but I would almost guess. I bet. Well, actually, I take that back because I do remember the Young Bucks were for a while they were actually personally, packaging up T-shirts and sending them out. But my point is, there's other companies involved here, and they are probably the ones that are really worried about this more than anyone. Is that Young Bucks might choose, hey, we're going to fight it, we're not going to fight it, but the company that's selling their merchandise and then cutting them a royalty check might just say, you know what, I have all these other people in the store, and if WWE comes down on me like a ton of bricks, there's all this other merchandise that is probably shady when it comes questionable. And then next thing I need is for them to come up with 100 examples of why they're taking off Bull James's gear or some other small indie wrestler's gear because it looks a little too much like some other WWE thing. So
Young Bucks sell T-shirts at Hot Topic, by the way, but none of the T-shirts that they actually carry at Hot Topic are concerned with this. There's no Too Sweet T-shirts being sold at Hot Topic.
Which brings up the really interesting question of why WWE chose now. And I personally think, the Being the Elite video probably irked them, but I think the Hot Topic deal might also be one of the reasons that they made the decision to do this, which is I think WWE, I'm inferring here, I think someone at WWE believes the Young Bucks are infringing on their IP. But I also think WWE is annoyed that the Hot Topic deal is an example of a pro wrestling deal in mainstream media in the marketplace that doesn't benefit WWE. And I think that bothers them, is because, I mean, we've heard those rumors that like even the Hot Topic people at one point thought they might be dealing with WWE and then kind of realized they weren't. Like they kind of thought Bullet Club was a WWE thing.
Because you see so many Bullet Club shirts at a WWE event, who knows?
I think there was some story that like the Hot Topic people were at, WrestleMania or something, and then they became convinced like, oh, this is a hot thing, we should get in on it. And then they were surprised to discover this is not actually related to WWE, even though all these people are at WrestleMania and wrestling events in WrestleMania weekend. So I do think there's that element of it, which is WWE is probably a little annoyed that it's so popular. I think it's interesting that Rick and Morty did, in fact, apparently someone at the IP holders, at Adult Swim or something, have apparently challenged the Young Bucks for the T-shirt they made that basically mimicked the writing style of Rick and Morty. So it says Nick and Maddie, but it looks, I mean, it's literally, when you put them side by side, it's pretty damning in terms of it's very similar. And then it has the same kind of portal gun aspect where the portal, and then it has the two of them jumping out. And the difference being that Nick and Matt are kind of making the two sweet gestures on that shirt, aren't they?
They do appear to be making the two sweet gesture.
So I think that's another reason that they might have wanted to back off that shirt, is because they are making the two sweet gesture and they're being challenged by someone else. Now, I think it falls under parody very clearly to me, that, they're doing a knockoff of Rick and Morty. Now, I do also think that Hot Topic might be annoyed at having a knockoff of their own shirt in the same store. Mm-hmm. At least I take it back. I don't know if that was do you know if that Nick and Morty shirt was in fact sold at Hot Topic?
I don't.
Yeah, I would have to check too, because that would be the other thing I'd be really curious, is if the Young Bucks shirt was actually sold at Hot Topic, because I thought only the Bullet Club shirts were, but I don't remember now. I actually went, both Rich Craich and
I went to a Hot Topic a couple weeks ago too.
Went to a Hot Topic to look at all the different shirts, and I do remember there being a lot of Rick and Morty shirts there. So that's the other piece of it, is if they were selling it at Hot Topic, that would annoy them to see, have that kind of knockoff merchandise. Because of course, if you make a exclusive merchandise deal with someone, you don't want some other person in that same store who's making, parody knockoff shirts of your shirt to also be getting the merchandise money, and to be possibly, confusing the marketplace. But again, strongly worded legal letters, are they necessarily actions? No, but they're just saying that they're threatening damages. And the safest course of action for a small indie wrestler is a lot of times just to cave in and change the one thing and then try to make the person kind of go away and leave us alone.
Yeah. You see $150,000, and that can be pretty intimidating to somebody who's not making millions and millions of dollars a year. But I think the one thing we should be clear about, or at least cast doubt on, is I think a lot of fans have probably got the conception that they're trying to tell the Young Bucks to stop using the gesture, and I don't think that that's gonna happen. They're telling the Young Bucks to stop using the gesture on their merchandise that they're selling, and I don't think there's going to be as much of a way for them to get the Young Bucks to stop using the too sweet gesture.
And to me, the probably the case history that's most relevant to this, that I'm surprised I didn't think about this sooner, is DDP's hand gesture, that little triangle, the diamond cutter.
Bang.
Because Jay-Z also kind of claims that hand gesture, and they went back and forth for years on trademarks. And
I know that.
Yeah, they both challenged kind of for the ownership and the rights to use that hand gesture for years and years. And so I should have thought of this sooner, but that's a really good example of, people saying, here's a hand gesture, here's me merchandising that hand gesture and putting it on t-shirts and things, here's me challenging other people, here's me saying I have prior use on this because here's me doing it in wrestling. And that went back and forth for years between DDP and Jay-Z's estates, and possibly even a third estate. And
was there any resolution? I
don't think in the end DDP was ever barred from using it, was kind of where they landed. I think it landed on one of these kind of, you can't claim ownership of it, but I can't be stopped from using it. So it's kind of one of these, like, nobody gets it because we can all challenge each other, or we can all agree that, no one has sole ownership of this thing. Mm-hmm. The same way that, a lot of things are kind of in that public domain where one person can be like, I have the exclusive rights to this, but at the same time, no one else can infringe or stop you from using it.
Yeah.
So,
and the Young Bucks have already capitalized on this, and they put out Friday, a cease and desist shirt.
Yes, where they blurred out where it looks like they're doing the too sweet gestures and whatnot.
Censored. Yeah. The block text that says censored right over their hands where they're doing the gesture.
And I got to say, for they're the ICP of 2010s. As much as no one wants to hear that, they are brilliant marketers who are able to connect with a group of people and essentially get them to buy a lot of merchandise and engage in them and make them seem like a big deal to a larger group of people than there really are.
So what you're saying is hardcore wrestling fans are eventually going to be investigated by the FBI as a potential organized crime group, right?
Well, I'm saying them being the elite sounds a lot like they're elite what? Elite hit squad, an elite group of spies. They have villains in their group, super villains perhaps. There's a lot of questions out there. So
Bullet Club, an organized crime unit.
But yeah, honestly, that's what I see it as very similar to, is something that is a very small percentage of the U.S. population would actually know who they are and what they're doing, but they're in the right place to talk to the youth and to merchandise themselves well and to make an impact to people that are much bigger than them that aren't really quite sure how to turn what they do into money in their pocket. So the Young Bucks have done a good job making money for themselves, but then when WWE sees it, it's kind of, a challenge to them of like, what is it that these guys are doing and how can we get in on it in the right way? I do think people at WWE, at least some of the people, some lawyer thinks that they're infringing on their IP. I don't think this is like a Vince McMahon vendetta. I think there's someone who legitimately thinks it's true. I also think that there are times that, the button gets pushed and it runs up the flagpole a lot stronger than another time. And I think when you have a high-selling T-shirt at a national chain and you're all over television and you're, kind of rubbing it in the face of this company, it's not surprising that they're going to fire back, especially if it's a cheap, strongly worded legal letter.
Yeah, just based on the emails that we've gotten, and as I said, the ESW's gotten, I would think they have somebody who's looking around and hunting for these things, doing some kind of search system to find, where is our IP being used by others.
Oh, they have a lot. I mean, they've actually talked a lot about how when you're searching for WWE PDFs on the web, which is something I've done quite extensively, looking for legal filings and government documents and things of that nature, one thing you come across is a lot of IP law and services operators. So like companies that basically sell the service of, we will protect your IP by going out on the web and searching for people that are infringing on it and then trying to, shut them down. And so for years, WWE tried to handle a lot of like the eBay stuff in-house. And eventually they took to basically, no, let's outsource a lot of this and get reports from people every day saying who are all the violators. And so, how you can look at those DMCA takedown requests. And it was a big ordeal when Senior Lariato and people got knocked off of Twitter for their wrestling gifts. Yeah. And it was for the infringing on copyrights. It wasn't actually WWE or UFC, I believe, that was making those requests. It was third parties that WWE and UFC have hired to basically go out and try to do that sort of thing. And you can always argue, are they being too litigious? Are they being too, granular? Is it right to take down somebody's fan art because it infringes on it? But a lot of times it's not even WWE themselves that is doing it. It's third parties that they've hired. And I found a lot of like not legal articles, but like sales articles saying, I'm here at WWIP and I hired this company and I think it's great how much work they've done and try to protect our assets and our IP. Because the other problem is if you don't protect your IP, you always run the risk of basically people trying to use that as an excuse for why they can get away with infringing on it.
And I will say that the email that I've shared with you that W sent to ESW, it was not signed by a third party, but was signed by somebody from Stanford.
Yes, and I will say this. A lot of times I don't think that the third party is sending the emails. I think they're flagging the violations, and then they send them back to WWE, and WWE in-house sends them out.
Okay.
Because the third party probably doesn't even have the rights to challenge you on it. It has to come from the rights holder. So it makes sense. I just mean the reason it got flagged, I really doubt someone at WWE searched for it. I'm guessing some other service found it their way, and then it was flagged, sent to them, and then they responded.
In the case of WWE, in the case of the Young Bucks, it could very well have been the case that they did this Raw invasion angle. Well, what can we poke them on? What are they doing that we can bother them with?
And we have no idea of whether this is the first time or not that they've ever been, complained about the Too Sweet gesture. We assume that it's the first time, but that might not be true. It's always possible that there's other times that they've been kind of communicated with to say, hey, we don't like that you're doing this. Yeah, formal or informal. Because, Pro Wrestling Tees, I'm positive, has gotten a lot of takedown notices in the past. Because I remember there was that time that, Steve Austin had a bunch of gear on there, I think it was. Yeah. And then it mysteriously went down. And the reason was they claimed that some of it was infringing on WWE IP. So I do think certain, mega stores probably get a lot of attention from them because they know that those are places that are most likely to have a lot of people buying things and a lot of violations going on.
Yeah.
So that's our take on the Young Bucks thing. Will they be able to use the Too Sweet gesture in videos and whatnot? Yes. Will they be able to use it on live pay-per-views? Probably. Will they be able to use them on merchandising? I think they will avoid putting it on merchandising unless they themselves are either merchandising it not in this country. So if you're doing it in Japan, I don't think you would have a problem. Or if you are, taking the risk yourself. If it's not going through a third-party distributor of some kind, I could certainly see them trying to do it, but I also don't think they think it's worth the risk. Like selling a PWG only T-shirt for a weekend just seems to me like it's going to scream out a problem down the line for them.
But they could continue to do these censored versions.
No reason not. I mean, it would be so petty and ridiculous to try to argue why you're doing that, especially when I think it's already a dubious case. Because I think they could fight this and they could even possibly win it already. So
the Bucks, you mean?
The Bucks, yeah. I don't think it would be easy, quick, simple. But, if they were to continue to be challenged on the censored one, I think they would have a pretty clear case. Again, I'm not a lawyer, so, hey, what do I know? But that's my uneducated, educated take.
Want to talk about WWE attendance?
I do, because we were talking about the empty house comments from Being the Elite, and that seemed to rub the wrong way WWE. And so the question that you and I had said is do we have any hard data on what WWE attendance numbers are out there?